Welcome to the Broadcast Map Show, part of the Broadcast Map Network, the show that covers the world of broadcasting, the Canadian media landscape, sports media, the show's favorite sports teams, as well as news and politics. Here is your host, Ali Musa.
Good afternoon on Monday, December 1st, 2025. We are back, and it's exciting to be back, and amidst the changes coming here to the Broadcast Map Network, but we will be here discussing that as well. We will be talking about that as well on air. We'll mention that in a bit in case you missed the newsletters. But right now, it's time to talk some Maple Leafs, NHL, and Blue Jays. And we've got Jim Tatti back to discuss. Jim, thank you so much for taking some time to join me this afternoon.
My pleasure, Ali. Always enjoy the conversations. And as you know, there's plenty to talk about.
Absolutely. You know what? Let's actually start with the Blue Jays, actually. That was just honestly, it was an incredible run, but it doesn't really, and they had chances to win the World Series in both Game 6 and 7.
Yeah, they did. I mean, when you're talking baseball, I don't know if I've said this to you before, but I've said it to other people. If you show me a World Series that goes 7 games, literally everything that can happen should happen. If you have a weakness, it comes out sometimes at the worst possible moment. And it just has everything. The drama from that 7-game series was phenomenal. And in the end, it comes down to 3 solo shots by the Dodgers with the game and the series on the line, and the Jays had no answer. As cold as analysis as that is the fact. But it's a great story. It was a great run, and now people will understand how fans of the Edmonton Oilers feel when you get into the Stanley Cup final and you walk away. It's an empty feeling if you don't win, that's for sure.
It most certainly is, because, it is because the Oilers have a similar, sort of story, because they've made it a couple of times to the Stanley Cup round and then didn't actually win. So, interestingly, and the Jays, although the Jays are sort of the first iteration of that for them, but it's kind of but the parallel, but the story is very similar.
It is. I think the Jays had a little more magic to it, in that there were some players that nobody knew anything about, some guys that didn't make the team out of training camp, spring training, and they showed up and made contributions. I think the more fascinating thing, the Oilers story is, you know where to look when there has to be a goal scored. For the Jays, you never knew who was going to deliver the key hit, the home run, the RBI, and then Trey Savage, when he showed up, was just, for a kid, phenomenal. You look forward to the next 10 to 15 years of this guy with the Jays. And so you didn't know where it was going to come from. It was kind of a compelling story. It was the kind of story that any Canadian would love to have been part of, to watch, as opposed to the hardcore baseball fan.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it was more of that. And I mean, you had Trey Savage step up. You had Barger also kind of come in there, which even he wasn't really it was the bottom of the lineup that you didn't really expect to really do much. But yet again, they carried the team.
They did, and if you go back to when they broke camp, everybody was pretty happy because Vladdy Guerrero Jr. was signed to that contract in the early stages, and he was supposed to carry the freight. Santander, the free agent signing in the offseason, there was the 1-2 punch, and Vladdy did find his way eventually. Santander did not, due to injury, and so it just it was a totally different look than anybody would have suspected, but because it was so successful, very entertaining to watch, and you just can't wait for spring training and to see what could happen next year.
Exactly, and the Jays just actually made a signing a few days ago.
Yeah, they did. So another starting pitcher was added. I guess it's like putting together a recipe. The ingredients have to be just right. It could look good on paper, and they have over the years, but there was something special about that team last year. All the ingredients sort of showed up in their own time and really made a nice stew out of the whole thing. And you just hope they can repeat that. It's difficult to do that, but it was, that was special. There's no other way to say it.
Yeah, and I think if they do, I think they're due for a repeat. I think next year, if they can, if the ingredients can be put together.
Yeah. Well, we hope so, right? I mean, it brought you back to the glory days over 30 years ago, and so, and quite frankly, the Raptors story, they just came off a bad weekend, but they'd won 9 straight. They've I don't want to say overachieved, but they have sort of a similar story in that they've got a very young team, and there's some people that are contributing that you wouldn't expect, and the starting 5 for the Raptors is much better than anybody predicted. So it's sort of carried on the Blue Jays story. The month of November, the Raptors were 12-3, so that was a nice sort of continuance of that Blue Jays story.
Yeah, and for the Raptors, Brandon Ingram has contributed too.
Oh, yes, he has. BI3, absolutely. He's fun to watch. He just adds so much. He's sort of, I equated him on one of our broadcasts to supplying the rhythm track, if this was a song, because he holds everything together, and that allows everybody else to do their own job. Now, it's sort of a version of what Kawhi Leonard did all those years ago when they won the championship. Kawhi was the guy with the game on the line, would do something defensively or offensively and swing it in the other direction. BI does that, not the same way, but in his own way. A really, really important ad. This guy he's phenomenal to watch.
Yeah, and I remember you mentioned when he was first, that you mentioned to me that when he was acquired that you really, that you liked that trade. And I think it's sort of showing, I think it's showing sort of what he's capable of doing.
Yeah, and on our broadcast, the guys have pointed out, and I think they're absolutely correct. If you go back to when the Raptors added Kawhi, it was at the right time. They had a number of assets that they could move out, and they did, and they made the very tough call on Dwayne Casey, removed him as head coach, even though he was coach of the year. Those are gutsy calls, but it was the right time. They kept running into Cleveland and LeBron, and they just couldn't get past. And I think there's a point there where if you can't sort of get to the end, then the problem is that I'm getting interrupted here by a phone call. I don't know why that is, but because
do you need to take it?
No, I'll just get rid of it. I don't know what that is.
Okay.
It's gone. I don't know why it showed up on my iPad. I'm
yeah,
a little messed up with that. Anyway, back to where we were, and I got lost there.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, I got lost. So I think what I was saying was
about Kawhi there, about the Dwayne Casey dismissal and things like that.
Yeah. Okay, so that was a timing thing. I know where I was. They kept getting to a certain point and then not succeeding. So if you do that year after year, sooner or later it goes south, because it's just, you have to change some of the players and sort of the focus on the team. And they did that, and they won. So my point about Ingram is that this was the time to bring that piece in, because everything else had been sort of sorted out. The other 4 starters were there, and they used a number of young kids over the last 2 years in starting roles, and they had developed. The Raptors are very good at player development. So those younger guys had developed, and now they're coming off in secondary roles off the bench. It was the right time to add a guy like BI.
Yeah, and that's it is. And I mean, you've got you've got some others contributing as well. His name escapes me. But you've got quite a few.
Oh, the starters like BI, Quickly, RJ when he's healthy, Scotty.
That's it, Scotty Burns. That's it.
Quickly. Yeah, I mean, Scotty is, yeah. So what BI allows everybody to do is grow into a more specific role. So Scotty can do more things when BI is not there. And last year when they had a lot of kids, Scotty had to take on other roles, which means, if you're doing somebody else's job, you can't do yours. Not that he was suffering. He's a good player. But I think in this particular case, he can just sort of get real specific and do really excel at what he's doing. And I think you'd say the same for the other 3 starters. That's what I was trying to say about what BI brings to the table for the Raptors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's certainly it. I think ultimately, you know what, they're going to be they will, I feel, continue to be a fun team to watch as well. Yes, they did lose a couple games on the weekend, but I think overall they're going to be a team to really pay attention to as well.
Well, it should be top 6 right now. I think they're top 2 or 3. So I think they'll land above the play-in spot, which is quite a rise from where they were. If you look at the bottom of those standings, you got teams like Washington that are just on a yearly basis are down and out. And if you do the Washington story, back when the Raptors were emerging as a potential NBA championship type team, Washington was right there, and Washington went down and didn't come back. The Raptors won, went down, and are back up again.
Yeah, they're the Wizards, the Washington Wizards.
Yeah.
I don't know why I was thinking the Capitals, but anyway.
Well, you had Ovi on your mind.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to the Leaf story, that has been they haven't been doing so well at this point. Now, yes, the win over the weekend, on Saturday against the Penguins certainly did sort of. Certainly it was a big win, 7-2, and I think that certainly could have marked, I think, a turning point, as some have been saying about that. But what do you think of Dakota Joshua's performance so far?
Well, I mean, a good response. So I'm just going to look at the lines here. So they had WA between McMahon and Joshua, and I'm pretty sure they had that earlier in the season. And this was supposed to be a really good identity third line. And then for through injury or whatever, it just didn't happen. Dakota Joshua got sat out recently and responded with a good performance. So this is what I was saying earlier about, people, there's a lot of guys in the league that have to learn how to play the 82 games. And because it's a younger league, I'm kind of convinced that a lot of them don't play the 82 games. They're up and down. They have to find their way. It just seemed to me that, and of course the league's faster, so it's faster and younger. If I went back a number of years, let's say 20 years ago, there were a lot of guys that could play 82 games, but it was a different game. So no judgment that way. If that line could solidify, and the great thing about the win over the Penguins was they got great secondary scoring. So, this is a new feature for them, because it usually resorts to the top 2 lines doing all the scoring and the bottom 6 struggling. But there's some good production there. Robertson got just a dandy goal, and others had chipped in as well. So this is noteworthy. You don't want to put too much emphasis on one particular game for the Leafs, because you could build a story one way or the other. But the fact that it happened in Pittsburgh on the road and the way it happened is somewhat noteworthy for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think Crosby was in the lineup that night too.
Yes, he was. Yeah, I mean, this was a good Leaf performance. Now the Penguins had opportunity, but Hildeby is another story. The goaltender, he played well, and so when I looked at his performance, and I've liked how he's looked since he was called up, that this is a guy who's going to be in the NHL probably next year or certainly the year after, and he's a bona fide prospect. And if he was to do that and they kept Wall, then they would have drafted and developed 2 goaltenders. That doesn't happen very often for the Leafs.
Yeah, and I mean, Stolarz is out too, but do you like Stolarz as when he's healthy? Do you like him as the backup there?
Oh, I mean, he and Wall would be a 1-2 or a 1 and 1A. They're both equal. Stolarz hasn't looked good this year, but
no,
I think maybe he got overplayed and then he got hurt. So I just think that that's a really good tandem. Good 1-2 punch. I don't know that either one of them is would launch into a number 1 if they were both healthy. They just rotate them, but we'll see.
Yeah, and I mean. Yeah, and I think also too, I think Crosby's future is going to be interesting with the Penguins. I think that's going to be interesting to watch down the road as well. See if he retires as a Penguin.
Yeah, I think he would.
I think so too.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the pregame prep. You notice that Crosby and Malkin are the best 2-point getters on the team still. So, what else could you add to that?
Exactly right. I mean, yeah, I think both of them, And I think if you add Letang in there as well, I think all three of them are just going to retire together. I think they're just, I don't want to say together, but they're all retire as Penguins.
I would agree with that. I just don't. I think if it wasn't going to be that way, they would have done something by now. I'm just looking at the standings. Pittsburgh is at 29 points. The Islanders just outside the wild card. They have 29 points. The Leafs have 25 and are only a point ahead of Buffalo in the race for the basement. But like I say, it's a tight set of standings. Normally, the old line was wherever you were by the American Thanksgiving is probably going to tip off your fate. I don't know if I would say that this year.
No, I mean, and the Senators have been an interesting story. Like they've been an interesting story as well. Montreal, even if you go right within the division, the Canadians as well.
Montreal, Boston. I mean, look, the division is led by Tampa. I don't know that anybody would have predicted that. Boston is 4 points behind, and Montreal 5 points behind. And Montreal has 29 points, which a lot of teams do. Pittsburgh and the Islanders do. So Montreal's in third, but just hanging on. Boston's played more games than anybody. So it's very negotiable. So, and here we are, 25 games in, and we can say that. I'd like to see where we are at 50. And I think that's probably a better indicator, or the halfway point, 41 games. When we get there, if you look at the standings, that might give us a better idea.
Most definitely, and most definitely, because then it'll be an interesting sort of thing. Like, see, I think by the trade deadline, I think it's going to be a very, very interesting to see where things go. And Florida hasn't looked great either. The Panthers.
No, the Panthers they're at 25 points. They have the same total as the Leafs, and the Leafs are in Florida tomorrow night. We'll have that game on TSN 1050. So I mean, some of that could be getting into the Stanley Cup final 3 years in a row. That's a lot of hockey, and you've won the last two, so that might be the Edmonton story as well. That's a long season, so it does wear out. It does wear you out, I'm told, and I would agree with that.
Absolutely, yes, and I'll be listening to that Leaf game tomorrow night.
Yeah, well, it should be interesting. I mean, the Leafs. That's always a test, right? That seems anytime the Leafs play the Panthers or the Bruins, and they come out of that game and then go on to Carolina, that's not an easy game either.
Yes, and I won't miss the pre and post game. I think it's a 1 hour pregame tomorrow, isn't it? I think it's a 1 hour pregame.
It is 6 to 7.
Yeah, and then the post game. I think it's a 30-minute post game. I think.
Pretty close. Depends on the night. It's a lot of it has to do with timing. When the game ends.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And I mean, certainly, now, but are the impacts, though, I mean, certainly, do you feel that the Leafs didn't really, yes, they traded Marner, but they didn't really have a replacement?
Well, okay, so that's an interesting premise because I think a lot of people have done I call it the AI edit on the Maple Leaf movie. They put Marner back into the movie, and they have a different outcome. I'm going to suggest to you, remember I said earlier that when you continually reach a certain point, this was the Raptors story, and it doesn't go any further, you have to change. I'm of the opinion that they are changing the way the team is playing. The players have had some difficulty grasping that, and whether Marner is there or not, they couldn't play as they did last year because it's so many years later and it just doesn't work in the playoffs. So I'd rather have the pain now than in early May. So maybe there's some method to this.
Yes. And I mean, most definitely because ultimately, I think though, see that, I mean, I'm of the camp that I don't really think that that you can blame it on that fact because, yes, it's a fact that he got traded, and yes, they didn't replace him with anybody, any replacement player, but I think that it was that mutually, I think they had to see what they could do now that to move the team forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's a natural thing to cry about the Marner situation. You'd have to go back 2 years to when the no trade clicked in. That was the time to make the move before it clicked in. Once it clicked in, it went on a path that I think was somewhat predictable regrettable, but somewhat predictable. So I just think that, their problem is right now they don't have a lot of cap space to maneuver. So I don't know what they're going to be able to do at the trade deadline. You're not going to acquire 100 points. So you have to do it piece by piece. And maybe the thinking was it wouldn't be done in one off season. It would take two. And if the team ends up in a better spot as they go to camp next year, I think that would be acceptable. But it's one of those situations where it's a big roster loss. There's no question about it. If you took a guy like that off any team, how would you recover? Well, you'd have to ask more from everybody else. And since some of the everybody else is new, it takes a little time to do that. I'm not saying they're going to get over this year, but I think long term, maybe it was, maybe they can come out of this.
Yeah. And, and I think like next year is going to be, is going to be an interesting sort of thing. I think there are some changes coming to the NHL. I think they're shortening the preseason a little bit.
Yeah, 4 games in an 84-game regular season. So we saw a little bit this year, and the Leafs only played 6. Some teams played as many as 8. So you cut 2 back, and I think that it works out that because veterans are not supposed to play every night. I think they play half the games. So we saw some injuries, and the Leafs have certainly had them, and other teams too, early in the season because the schedule is compressed because of the Olympics. So I'm sort of advising people that you might see that on a yearly basis. If you have 4 preseason games and all of a sudden start into an 84-game schedule, whether the season is compressed or not, odds are, you're going to get some injury because it's a lot of games.
Yeah. Yeah. And, like, I realize like this, that this year, I think in February of 2026 that they've got the Olympics, but I'd like to really see them replace the All-Star game with the Four Nations tournament.
Yeah, well, they've got sort of a rotating, and I don't know the exact word of it. Whether it's not a world, it's sort of a version of the Four Nations. You have to forgive me. I forget what they called it, but I think it's on a 2-year rotation where that's going to happen. The All-Star break will probably still be around unless they can figure out another way to make the sponsors happy. That's kind of what it's about. I'm not an All-Star fan in any of the major pro sports. I just, for me, I'm a regular season guy and the playoffs, and anything other than that. I mean, the Olympics is good. I've learned to accept that because it's really good hockey, although it can get in the way of your team's regular season, but everybody goes through it. So it's a level playing field that way. But I've never been an all-star guy. Ever since they made it sort of friendly to the players as opposed to, it seemed to me that years ago when I was a kid, that's a long time ago, there seemed to be some animosity, when there was an all-star game played. There isn't anymore. It's a fun time, and it should be a fun time, but I liked it the other way.
Yeah, I enjoy. Yeah, I know, but and I mean, yeah, no, I agree. I've never. Yeah, the All-Star games have never been. I've never been really. I mean, yeah, I agree with you on that one. I'm not really big on it. Although the MLB All-Star game's okay, but.
Well, that's the good example, because when I was a kid, it'd be National League against American League, and there was no interleague play. So if you saw a star from the American League playing, in the batter's box or hanging around and talking to a guy from the National League, like 2 Hall of Famers or eventual Hall of Famers, that was kind of an interesting shot. Now there's all kinds of opportunity for that to happen before the All-Star game, and the Homer Derby. Some people like it, I don't. I just like the
No, I don't either.
Yeah, it's kind of gimmicky, right?
Yeah. Yep. But I mean, certainly, as we head into as we go into the holidays, we've got the. It's always a fun time of year. You've got the World Junior Hockey Tournament coming up.
Yeah. I'll be doing that with Stu, and Mr. Cullen will be doing the play-by-play, and Cameron Gauntz will be doing the analysis. And I think we have Bonesy's son doing one of the games on play-by-play. I'm pretty sure that's what I saw.
So it's going to be a fun tournament then. It's going to be real. It's going to be fun.
I love that. I used to like when I was at Global, we used to do those Indy races. And I used to like them because you'd roll in on a Thursday and everything was just being set up, and by by Sunday afternoon it was all over. There's a constant. Each day was a ramp up, and with the World Juniors, there's the preliminary round, and then before you know it, you're into the quarterfinals, and then it's over. I mean, it happens pretty fast. So I like that. It's a nice little contrast to 82 games for the NBA and 84 next year for the NHL and 162 of Major League Baseball.
Yeah, and you know what I think what I really sort of appreciate about the tournament is that it really sort of gives the sort of the perspective of what you can expect from the future, because you'll see players who are currently in the OHL, and I think the CHL as a whole, you'll see them. You'll see participate, but it really gives sort of the thing of what you can expect, and it's just great that they're giving. That it's really. I think it's just nice to see the kids get the chance to play.
Oh, it's like a scouting combine, really, that way. So the one year we did it, Connor Bedard was the extra forward to start, and before you knew it, he played himself up to the top line, and then of course that was interrupted by COVID, and then when you came back, they resumed the tournament the following August, and he was just a stud player. I mean, that's how fast things can happen. Sometimes you'll see a guy who's highly rated who actually plays himself down the lineup, and that's noteworthy too. That's a negative, but it is noteworthy. But you really, it is the stars of tomorrow today. There's no question about that.
Yeah, and do you know where the tournament is this year?
It's in Minnesota.
Oh, okay. So it's right around. Okay, so it's kind of right in the same right in the. So it's in the central time zone. Just. It's not going to be like those. Remember those when they've been in other parts of the world, those early morning games.
Yeah. Well, we did at the very first one I did. I think they were in Helsinki. The reason I don't know is because we had Ray Ferraro on the phone. And I was so tired. In the quarterfinal, we did 4 games. I think we went on the air at 6 a.m. and at 4 p.m. We did all 4 games on TSN radio. And by the afternoon, I couldn't remember what the heck was going on. And I had Ray Ferraro on, and I think I had him in Sweden. And he corrected me, and he said, "It's okay, Jim. It's been a long day for all of us. I understand why you messed that up." Oh, imagine doing 4 games in a row, one right after the other, starting at 6 a.m, which meant you had to be there by 5, which meant you had to leave the house by 4, which meant you had to get up by 3.
Yeah. But I mean, now you could probably do. But now I think. But now that you'd be able to do it. But now you'd be able to do it. I don't know what. I mean, unless the setup is different. But technically, now you could do it from home.
I'll do it right from this seat. As a matter of fact, my monitor is just off to my right side. So yeah, it's easy to do now. Back then, that was all done at the studio.
Yeah, that was interesting. Sort of, it was interesting. Yeah, we'll chat a bit about that off air. It's kind of interesting, kind of just. And I'll share a story off air as well with you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Well, we are here, and coming up here we've got some exciting stuff coming up. We have I'll be back in the studio on Sunday, which will then be known as the Ali and McCara Show. We'll be having some fun there, and we'll be talking about, actually we're going to be discussing Morning Has Broken by Aaron Davis, actually, as our book, and we'll be there Sunday. And of course, Tech Extravaganza to learn some tech tips on Wednesday. We'll be there as well. And I'll be back with this show soon as well. And Jim, I really want to first take this opportunity again to thank you so much, and I look forward to having you back on air real soon.
Ali, it's my treat to be here. I always enjoy our conversations.
Yes, and let's do it again real soon.
Absolutely. We'll set it up.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much for listening to and/or watching the Broadcast Map Show. To learn more about the show, please visit broadcastmap.ca. While you're there, subscribe to the newsletter so you never miss an update. Besides, it's free. Enter your email address and hit subscribe right on the homepage. The Broadcast Map Show is part of the Broadcast Map Network, where good conversations happen.